Good afternoon. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is David Okun, and thank you everyone for subscribing, for supporting my channel, for leaving a comment, clicking notification bell, everything you have done to be part of this project. We are small. We have been growing very slowly. We started 10 months ago. We're talking about the cost of living. That is the beginning. From the beginning of our project, we decided to talk about the cost of living as a crisis, as a global crisis, and we will continue to do that going forward, and to also link this with different context, set it in their different context, in different worlds, using different systems, policies, laws, and it can be perhaps complicated for some people, and for me particularly, I'm dealing with some really complicated topics, but that's something I've chosen to do because at the heart of it, are people. I'm talking about people. I'm talking about the plight of people, and it has been a very exhilarating experience, and it's a privilege every day to um, record a video, and thank you for all your support. We need to grow. We will grow with time. Everything takes time. We are only 10 months, and we are doing quite well, especially the consistency of the work being done, and also the understanding of the nature of this platform. And I'm grateful to YouTube. I'm grateful for the YouTube communities. If you go visit YouTube, you learn a lot from other YouTubers, and this is an opportunity, and we're grateful for it. And it's an opportunity also to talk about the cost of living as a crisis, and also to get this opportunity talking about what is really a very serious crisis, been disturbing so many people across the globe, whether in the developed world, especially in the developing world like Africa. Today I will be talking about Kenya in East Africa. I have already uh, uh, recorded videos previously as part of the process talking about Kenya in East Africa. Those of you who know Kenya, congratulations for your knowledge, and also perhaps you have visited Kenya, and it's one of the one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And you can go there and visit family and friends, and also maybe go as a tourist. It's a tourist area. There are national parks with wild animals if you like wild animals. You can go to Africa generally, but Kenya is one of the best countries to visit because of the nature. We have nature reserves, and this Nairobi capital is extremely beautiful. Kenya is actually sits within the equatorial belt in the global mapping, and I've said this before in the other videos. I'm repeating it here as a continuation. If you watch this video, watch with the other ones. And going forward, I'll be going through a material, and also to portray Kenya as a country, in setting it in the context of Africa, also to demonstrate how strong Africa as a continent, particularly Kenya as a country in East Africa, being one of the richest potentially, and also in terms of development, and to link this phenomenon, the majesty which is Africa, which is also Kenya, with the cost of living crisis. It's a providing of contradiction between people being so, a continent and a country being so rich, and the people there being so poor. We look at the country in its holistic terms, history, the current, and the projecting, to see where the continent perhaps, and also Africa. Africa is the continent, and East Africa is the country, where the direction they're going. And I've also looked between development and culture, and we are, as a humanity, we have done very well on the cultural front, and we are also set to do well if we pause to look at the cultural element. And today, our progress is looking more toward wealth, which is a good thing. wealth including science, technology, and development. Technology, and engineering, all these things, the economic system of governance, and all the other infrastructure, wealth in itself, like money, housing, assets, goods and services. We have plenty of those up and down the world, or the globe, actually, also up and down the continent of Africa, and also in Kenya. If you go to Kenya, you will discover some of the wealthiest people in US dollar living in Kenya. But also you are bound to find some of the poorest. This is actually the essence of why I'm speaking. And it's a global phenomenon where we seem to be using capitalism as a system, as an economic and political program to concentrate wealth in the hand of the few, 10-15% of the population, and not the many. The many, who are actually the majority of the world, in Kenya included, and Africa and across the globe, they are actually working for a living. And I've already said it here, and I've said it before. There are points I'll be repeating consistently for purposes that we remember what are of the utmost importance. If you have subscribed, if you haven't subscribed to this channel and support it. Leave a comment below, be a participant, and I'll carry on with this discourse. And I value this program, and so I believe there are people who value it. I've got some really encouraging feedback. And like I said before, we are actually a small channel, and it's true. I hope for us to grow sooner rather than later. Who knows? And but my focus now is to actually explore the topic of the cost of living crisis, and it's important to me in particular, perhaps also to you, because it involves humanity. Poverty is wrong, and poverty should be eradicated. It is possible to eradicate poverty in the world because there is so much wealth, potential wealth, and also already ready-made wealth is available because of development. Because development around the world, there is enough wealth to get people out of poverty. My wanting is actually to get everybody out of poverty into a normal way of life, and to carry on individually or in groups to enter to access wealth. And this is the whole point about talking about this. If you think this is important, leave a comment below, and share this video with family and friends, and continue to talk about this. And I will expect many people to enjoy to engage with this program. But for now, even if only one person, even if no one is actually viewing this material, I'll continue to record it. Somewhere along the line, somebody is going to see it. And if they don't see it, then it's okay. What matters for me now is that I am actually talking about it. And I noticed that, as I learn more about this topic, it's very complicated. Also, the process also of YouTubing or videoing, talking to the camera is not easy. And 10 months on now, this improvement, it doesn't matter how little or how seemingly insignificant, it's a costly process, and you need a lot of money to invest on equipment. And if you look at this picture, the quality of this picture and the last one, this one is actually an improvement because I got a new equipment. I'm using my mobile phone at the moment. I have laptops, but their cameras are not really good, so I use them for other purposes, to do research, and also to use them for other activities. But for recording, I'm using this mobile phone because it is actually, it has a good camera. I like it, but there are a lot of things still to do. The videos are really not being edited. I'm planning actually to start doing live. I've never done it before, and we'll see how it goes with live. I think program will start doing live next week. I will find out how to do it, and whether I'm not going to do any scheduling. I will just go out there and do it with or without people, because but I want to start next week, which is not far off. If I start doing live next week, I'm going to do it every day, and then maybe toward Christmas, toward December, I will start scheduling, designing timetable, and whether people attend it or not, I will be carry on. Whether people watch these videos or not, I will be continuing to to record it. And recording it is very challenging. Now it is winter in the UK, and I don't like the weather, but I mostly work from home, so that is still good. Go out from time to time, but most of my work has been inside. So because my presentation requires material, you need sedentation, sitting in one place and talking to the camera, which is used to be awkward. It's still awkward, but I'm really enjoying it a bit. Next year, perhaps I'll be going out with the idea of interviewing individuals. It will still be kind of like this conversation talking, and perhaps we have a lot of parks here, except during the summer. So next year, probably we'll be taking some videos in parks, maybe discussing certain topics, maybe cooking or doing breakfast or whatever. But I will probably talk about the cost of living for a long time. I will be talking about other topics, but also I will try to link whatever topic I make with the cost of living, because it relates to wealth. It leads to poverty. It actually reveals what the state is about, or the world is about. The world, the globe, the continent, the nations, what they are doing, what the condition of humanity is. It is of fundamental interest because it involves our survivability as humans, regardless what we do. And I say this outside apology. In other words, I'm not apologizing to anyone. Whatever we're doing, it is. Sometimes we are so deluded as people to think that we are pursuing everything else except humanity. We don't sometimes even care about our life. That is, I have to say this: if you don't care about yourself, then you're in the wrong place. You shouldn't be on Earth. Go and be an alien somewhere else. Even if you're a young person, you are an adult, you are an elderly person, you must take care of yourself. You have to care about yourself. Otherwise, you are totally irrelevant as part of the human family. And that is what I mean by cultural economy, which we have neglected for decades. In schools, when we go there are elements of teaching respect, value, but not in any structure or in any industrial context. We need to now revisit this. We need to now take as a priority wealth is for people. People are not for wealth. And slavery means employers, owners of wealth, see humans as part of their assets. Humans are actually equated with wealth because they are their property. And the history of humanity, including in Kenya, has been littered with incidents of slavery. And slavery still exists today. If you work for an employer, you are a slave. If you work as a small and medium business, you're a slave because the government owns you, the big businesses owns you. They look at you as a property, other than as a human. Working for an employer, if you try to engage with an employer, they will engage with you to the extent that you promote their businesses. If you stop being useful in making money for them, they will fire you. Firing means they're going to ask you to leave. You're going to lose your job. Because you see, your value is set in terms of how much money you make for them. And not even how much, you see, their idea of happiness is actually making more money. So private businesses, that's what they're doing. That's what is being promoted under capitalism. That's what is being promoted under marketized system of the economy. And that is the complaint I have. The complaint I have about myself, the complaint about everybody else, who now collectively are more educated about how to make money. I don't despise money. If you're going to make money, make money. If you're going to do something else, do something else. But the number one priority is a human being. A human being is more important than wealth. This is my message to employers and to employees, to government and to the electorate. Under democracy, if you elect a government, you are more important than the vote. The government, even you vote for, the positions you hold in society is less important. That is the idea of cultural economy and cultural education. I've been talking about this over and over and over again, and I'm so excited about it. I'm sometimes sad because sometimes I get a few people watching, but if I am to record video because people are watching it, I would have stopped before I even started. When I began this channel and when I began this video, my intention was to actually finish what I have started, and I haven't finished what I've started yet. Watch the video if you have the chance to access to watch it. If you don't get the chance to watch it, that's fine. I'll be recording it and posting it as long as the YouTube channel still exists, as long as I still exist, as long as I still have the time and the opportunity to do it. I will continue to do it. It is either I'm talking about the cost of living crisis and contextualizing it with different elements of life, of industries, of trade, you name it, as what I've been doing, contextualizing the cost of living crisis with other elements of functioning in society, in families, and so on and so forth. And that's what I'm doing going forward. I will be doing other things like I said before. So we are going to look at Kenya. We're going to look at a group of people in Kenya called the Somalis. If you know something about Somalis, leave a comment below. Let me know what you think about the Somalis. If you live in Kenya, let me know that you live in Kenya. What do you think about Kenya? If you live outside Kenya, if you are not a Somalian, have you seen them? Have you experienced them? I'm talking about the Somali as part of the Kenyan community. And the 1962 there was a referendum in Kenya regarding the community, the people living in Somalia. Because you see, if you watch the rest of the video, I've been talking about the peopling of East Africa, the peopling of Kenya, and how people move into becoming Kenyan, how people move into becoming Africans. So I've actually spoken about this. If you find time, you watch them. If not, then read about them. If you're interested, go to Africa, go to Kenya, go to wherever you want to go. And before Kenya got its independence, the Somali ethnic people in present-day Kenya, in the areas of northern frontier districts, petitioned Her Majesty's government not to be included in Kenya. So, in other words, the Somalia didn't want to be to be included in Kenya. When you talk about northern frontier districts being petitioned by Her Majesty's, the northern frontier district was actually, this was in 1962 before Kenya got its independence. Kenya was still under the colonial grip of Britain, and there's a place, a district known as, apparently, if you watch the rest of my video, I shared there that it was the British who created Africa in terms of mapping, in terms of demarcating, in terms of drawing the maps and creating the administrative system in the modern sense of the word. It depends what modernity is, in the capitalistic sense of the word. Because see, imperialism had been about capitalism. Imperialism had been about capitalism and nothing else. It's about the expanding of the trading sector of society, and that's what is still happening, and that's what is going to happen. We are now entering into this financial age. We are getting out of the economic age and into technological age. When I talk of the economy, I mean trading, selling and buying is going to end. So the economic age will end. We're going to enter into technological age. Technological age is about the age of knowledge, and that is along the front of development. So on the side of culture, we have a long way to go, because progress, in my opinion, has two fronts: the developmental and the cultural, economic development. So these will continue. The culture will continue, is because everything will be consumed. Well, this is not talk about economy, because life is actually composed of economy, selling and buying, and money, wealth, engineering, knowledge. Knowledge is actually focused on development, economic development. But I also want to introduce a dimension. We need to focus more on the cultural dimension of progress, which is valuing humanity as a priority. And this is of interest because this is about people. And if we don't pay attention to people, we are going to have wealth. And we are not going to have people. People are going to die. We are going to have our money, and the aliens will come and invade the earth and take our wealth away. So we will talk about Kenya. We'll talk about the Somali people, the Somalians. Let's call them, describe them that way. The Somalians in Kenya. This was way back in 1962. Leave a comment below if you were born in 1962 already. If you were not yet born, then so be it. I mean, you are probably still young, or you're born in the later years. But the Somalians didn't want to be in Kenya. This is during colonialism. They did not want to be in Kenya. And what they wanted to do, I don't know what they wanted to do really. They were actually asking the Her Majesty's government in the UK, in England. They wanted to be, they wanted not to be included in Kenya. So the colonial government decided to hold Kenya's first referendum in 1962 to check the willingness of Somalis in Kenya to join Somalia. There were a group of individuals who wanted to go back to Somalia. But you see, the British government, the colonial government, had to decide to make a decision. So a referendum is actually a conference. It is a meeting, is actually an election to be being held by government. So the result of the referendum shows 86% of Somalis in Kenya wanted to join Somalia. But the British colonial administration rejected the results, and the Somalis remain in Kenya. So that is the idea of democracy. It's the idea of honoring a referendum's result. So the referendum was in vain, because the Somalia wanted to go back. Somalis wanted to go back to Somalia. This was in 1986. That story is interesting. There's some Somalis still living in East Africa. In Kenya. Let's talk about the independence of Kenya as it happened. And let us look at other notable figures like Jomo Kenyatta, the president and founding father of Kenya. Jomo Kenyatta was the first African president of Kenya. And the first direct election for native Kenyans to the Legislative Council took place in 1957. When they talk of native Kenyans, they are actually talking about Africans, the people of the indigenous Africans who are actually were under the colonial grip. Now, the process of independence led to the first direct election of Africans, native Kenyans, to the Legislative Council, which took place in 1957. Now, Legislative Council, if it is national, then it is Parliament. If it is local, then it is also, you could say, it's a space for discussing policies and laws and things like that. So if it's going legislative assembly is actually legislative is a place where they set laws and policies, because legislation coming from legislative spaces. Legislation is actually a primary source of law. Some people call it act of parliament. Despite British hopes of handing power to moderate local rivals, it was the Kenya African National Union Kano of Jomo Kenyatta that formed a government. The Kano Kenyan African National Union were considered by the British to be extremist. So, despite British hope of handing power to moderate local rivals, it was the Kenyan African National Union Kano of Jomo Kenyatta that formed a government. So the information is that the first African political party to form a government in Kenya was actually the Kano Kenyan African National Union, which was headed by Jomo Kenyatta. Jomo Kenyatta, therefore, being a Kikuyu, and also I spoke about the Mau Mau, which took place in Kenya, leading to the immense massacre of Africans, as well as also the colonial white people. This was actually led by the Kikuyus, because Jomo Kenyatta was a Kikuyu. He was already painted by the colonialists as being an extremist. And when they took moderate, these are people who are not extremists, and moderate people are actually considered to be pragmatic. But in terms of colonialism, there were the people who actually were soft on the point of imperialism. They were actually a sell-out, basically. They were lukewarm when it comes to supporting the causes of Africans. They were actually selling out to the foreigners, the foreign occupants, or the enslavers who came in the form of a British colonialist. That was actually the situation when they were not considered moderate, and the British wanted to hand power to people who were moderate, who were actually more sympathetic to Britain, to the British government and the British country. And the colony of Kenya and the protectorate of Kenya each came to an end on the 12th December 1963 with independence conferred on all the Kenyans. So Kenya got its independence, according to this information, in 1963 on the 12th of December. So the UK ceded sovereignty over the colony of Kenya. So sovereignty means the Kenyan became responsible for running their own countries, and they got their freedoms, their autonomies, and Britain no longer controlled it in terms of politics and also the constitution. The Sultan of Zanzibar agreed that simultaneous with independence for the colony, he would cease to have a sovereignty over the protectorates of Kenya, so that all of Kenya would become one sovereign state. So there were, behind the scenes, I would presume, negotiations between Britain and the Arabs. When they took the Sultan of Zanzibar, these were the Arabs who occupied Africa, who also colonized part of Kenya in this instance. And now they are all agreeing to hand over power. Britain was the deciding factor, as you would expect. It was actually a global power at that time, and the detail of this handing of power, of giving independence, is a prolonged and also more detailed than what I'm trying to just give here, because I'm just giving an overview, so that to see to give some kind of a perspective in what Kenya might or might not look like. The history of Kenya, the political history, and all the other aspects of history, to see that Kenya is a country, Africa is a continent, it's a normal part of the global economic and political relationship. And therefore, if we talk about the cost of living crisis, we're talking about a normal country with history and identity. And that's why I'm actually undergoing this process. And in this way, Kenya became an independent country under the Kenyan Independence Act of 1963 of the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom set law to back or to give credence to give credentials to independence. So a law known as the Independence Act of 1963 was set to actually back up the incidents of independence. On the 12th of December 1964, Kenya became a republic under the name Republic of Kenya. Republic simply always a reaction to the rule of the monarchy. Monarchy is actually when king and queens rule by decree. So the idea of republic actually is of independence from the grip of dictatorship. So Kenya became a republic to declare that it is no longer under the rule of the dictatorial monarchy of Britain. So in other words, the Queen of England, the royalty, the monarchy of England, of the United Kingdom was no longer ruling Kenya. So Kenya declared itself a republic. Concurrently, the Kenyan army fought the Shifta war against ethnic Somali rebels inhabiting the northern frontier district who wanted to join their kin in the Somali Republic to the north. So the behavior of the Kenyan government was perpetuated the attitude of the United Kingdom, preventing the Somalis to leave. So Somalis, for one reason or another, in the majoritarian sense of the word, wanting to go back to Somalia, were actually oppressed by the post-independent Kenya. To my mind, thinking that, looking at it at face value, I would say that is something the Kenyan government would have not really have. The African government shouldn't have actually continued with what was clear oppression. These groups of Somalis were actually forming. They formed into a rebellion. Forced the Shifta. They created something known as the Shifta War, which was being fought between the Kenyan army and the Somali rebels. And the ceasefire was eventually reached with the signing of the Arusha memorandum in October 1967, but relative to insecurity prevailing through the 1969. So this is some of the process after independence dealing with some of the issues created by the British and now being solved, left to be solved by Africans, it's between the periods. And to discourage further invasion, Kenya signed a defense pact with Ethiopia in 1969, which is still in effect. So let's look at the first presidency. Further, you look at Jomo Kenyatta and his presidency and the man himself. Let's look at it, and we talk about the cost of living crisis. The reason we are looking at this material is to prove to the world that Kenya is a normal country with normal economies, modern political system. The government of Kenya has the capacity to set laws to deal with the cost of living crisis and to address the extremity of capitalism. As if you followed my processing up to this time. Thank you so much for watching this far. We are about 30 minutes into this. I try to make long videos, not deliberately, but because we are dealing with really very integrated subject. If I break it into small pieces, then people may get lost. People will be thinking, I'm not repeating so many things, which I do, but because the nature of videoing and creating these videos, I have to really invent ways of presenting this information. And we still talk about the cost of living. The cost of living, you may not believe it, because cost of living is a policy problem, it's a poverty problem, and created by government policy, global systems. Today, if we ask the Kenyan government to address the issue of poverty in Kenya, it is almost impossible for any African country to address the problem almost any political problem in Africa without dealing with Europe, without dealing with the rest of the world, because of something called as globalization. If you exist as a human, unless you are an alien from another space, if you exist in this present age, you need to understand what globalization is. If you are British, if you are Kenyan, if you are African, European, black or white, know what globalization is. And that is what I try to do. And ignorance for me or for anyone else or for you is actually is a discredit to actually valuing you as a human being. Somebody who doesn't want to learn anything for whatever reason is excluded from my list as of a value, because we need to really get the right kind of information. We need to be informed. If you are going to play, if you're going to pray, if you're going to visit friends, learn, go to the library and learn something about globalization, the European Union, if you're in Africa, if you're in Europe, if you're in Africa, African Union, East African Community, know these things, because it means, what it means is that what happens in Kenya happens in the rest of Africa and also in Europe. You may not believe it, because Africa is a developing country, Europe is developed. But we are the same as a global system, as a global community. There is something called the global village is being prepared. And that's why now you see foreign policy is extremely important. Defense policy is extremely important. Environmental policy is extremely important. What happens in one world is of interest to another. The cost of living of crisis in Africa is connected to the cost of living in Europe, because it is a policy issue. It is a decision issue by the government to shut down the public sector across the globe and promote an extreme form of capitalism. I've been saying this and I continue to say it over and again. People need to listen to this, whether they like it or not. If you don't want to listen, it's fine. There is going to come a time when you will have to make your mind, whether you're human or you're an alien. If you're not human, stand up for humanity and understand the problem and solve it. You need to take responsibility for yourself, regardless where you are. If you are Kenyan, if you are an African, black or white, you have a responsibility, and that's why I'm trying to talk to you. Pay close attention. On the 12th of December 1984, the Republic of Kenya was proclaimed, and Jomo Kenyatta became Kenya's first president. That statement is clear. The Kenya became a republic in 1964, and Jomo Kenyatta became its president. Under Kenyatta, corruption became widespread throughout the government, civil service, and business community. It is the same problem in Kenya, in Uganda, in Africa, across the globe. Corruption is here to stay. The reason there is corruption because we are failed as culturally as people. We our sense of valuing has been perverted. We pay attention more to wealth than to humanity. I've been talking about this, I'm going to talk about it over and over and over. If you're watching this video now, I'm so grateful that you've watched this far. Only one person, 100 people, 1,000, 1 million people watching. I'm so grateful. Let's carry on with this exercise. You see, corruption is the product of human failure. It's educational, humanitarian based education, failure of it, not knowing what, having no clue really what their priorities are. Your priority is your culture, and culture means valuing humanity. You cannot be corrupt as a person, as a government, somebody running a system. The system cannot be corrupt if those who are running it are actually culturally educated, and cultural education is about valuing humanity, putting its priority the value of a human being. See, wealth, power, influence is for people. People are not for this thing. We run governments, we run states to help us. The state doesn't run us to exploit us for its own end. Presidents, economic captains, those who own wealth, multimillionaires and multi-billionaires, do not use humanity for them to get rich for the sake of getting rich. They actually exploit our energies, our effort, so that we create a world to help us. We work, we make sacrifices for us, not for wealth. We don't create wealth because wealth is more important than us. We create wealth because we are more important than wealth, whether you're poor or rich. Unfortunately, those who are in power now are losing sight of humanity. They're concentrating on more wealth and glory, and the glory coming with wealth, pride, and need for power, violence, and brutality, including killing people. The cost of living is a sign. The cost of living as a crisis is also a sign. The cost of living as a crisis may or may not kill people directly or indirectly, but it's a sign of things to come, that our culture is broken. Talk about corruption, then there's still corruption. Now, Kenya and his family, Kenyatta and his family were tied up with this corruption as they enrich themselves through the mass purchase of property after 1963. This is still happening now. The first family in Kenya, some of the richest people on earth. You have the son of Kenyatta just finished his term of office a few months ago, and the new man now, the new guy have taken over. They're doing the same thing in Africa, in Kenya, across the world. It's a global thing because of cultural failure, as I said. Their acquisition in the Central Rift Valley and coast provinces aroused great anger among landless Kenyans. A lot of Kenyans became landless because of the colonial violence and brutality, taking land away from people they are not interested in, only concentrating wealth in the hands of parties to the criminal enterprise of imperialism, if you want to put it that way. And neocolonialism, which is now a form of government continuing after independence, is actually a continuity of corrupt practices introduced by the British, still happening in Africa, introduced by the European, still happening in Africa, still happening in Kenya, and part of the world is a corrupt system which is actually creating the cost of living crisis in the first instance, but which cost of living crisis was created when people are poor, and poverty means you work for a living or you don't work at all. Especially in Africa, if you don't work, you're on your own. If you don't have land, the land having been taken away by the state, and then you just end up in a slum. If you go to slums in Africa generally, but particularly in Kenya, you'll be so shocked that the cost of living is a revealing of the evil that humanity has become, valuing wealth and power more than humanity. And this is a cultural failure. We see this over and over and over, never getting tired of repeating the same point. The Kenyatta family also heavily invested in the coastal hotel business, with Kenyatta personally owning the Leonard Beach Hotel. The same story across Africa, then and now, is continuing. Kenyatta's mixed legacy was highlighted at the 10-year anniversary of Kenya's independence. A December 1973 article in the New York Times praised Kenyatta's leadership and Kenya for emerging as a model of pragmatism and conservatism. Now, when the Western world praise you, means you're doing the kind of thing they're interested in. You're promoting capitalism. Capitalism means accumulation of wealth by the many, by the few, and taking this wealth from the many. I've been repeating this point to use these pieces of information from different sources to back up my claims. And Kenya's GDP had increased at an annual rate of 6.6% higher than the population growth rate of more than 3%. So Kenya potentially could have been rich, and that's why I talk about Kenya yesterday, in the past, and Kenya of today, and explain that even in Kenya there should not be the cost of living crisis. The cost of living crisis is there because the government is not running the country properly because of capitalism in Kenya. capitalism, which was actually promoted by the British and the Europeans, and the West and the East now joining capitalism. And capitalism is wrong because it concentrates wealth in the hands of the few, taking this wealth away from the hands of the many, the majority of the population of the world, not just in Kenya and not just in Africa or elsewhere, but globally. It's a global project, part of the globalization project. And capitalism, if not actually addressed, is going to destroy humanity, rich or poor. And that's why I'm talking about the cost of living to illustrate what is actually an ingrained problem within the system. And the solution, the fundamental solution to a non-cultural economy, so that people prioritize humanity over and above anything else, wealth included. Wealth and power are not more important than humanity. These, if you learn and really value what I'm saying, that you are a human. If you don't, then you are an alien, then you are excluded from my list of people who I value. Thank you for watching this far, and also thank you for being part of this process. I value you. We are few, but we are okay. And the more the merrier. And my hope is for more people to engage with this information. But let's go back to this piece of information I'm looking at here. But Amnesty International responded to the article by stating the cause of the stability in terms of the human rights abuses. This is what I'm talking about. Because, you know, when there are human rights abuses, I mean, there is violence, there is suppression, there's dictatorship featuring in Kenya, but not only in Kenya, but across the globe, including the rest of Africa and the rest of the world. And this is the failure of culture. We need to learn our culture so that we begin to value humanity more than power, wealth, and to address the incident of corruption, to address the incident of violence, and to bring peace and happiness. And these are shaded over and over again. I will not really apologize for that. The opposition party started by Oginga Odinga. Kenya People's Union couple was banned in 1969 after the Kisumu massacre, and couple leaders were still in detention without trial in gross violation of the United Nations Declaration of Human Rights. So suppression, dictatorship in Kenya became a feature of politics and government, and that the problem is still perpetuating now. Dictatorship is a evidence of cultural failure, suppressing people using power and evil to run the country, such as you see in Kenya. Kenya is one of the most evil countries in the world. If you visit the slums, you will know it. That is the record of Africa, record of Kenya, record of the world. If Kenya, you see in Kenya in evil, and that is globalization. In Africa, in every other continent, there is evil now running the world. We need to stop that by getting these people out of power if we can. If we cannot, then we have to really educate them by promoting the idea of cultural economy, which is setting humanity as a priority and valuing humanity more than anything else. And then things will begin to change, changing the way we think, changing the way we process information, our learning, our structuring society, our promoting, for example, other capitalism, promoting the public sector to provide public service to ameliorate the incident of extreme capitalism, which create poverty for the many and concentrate wealth in the hands of the few. Thank you again for watching this far. You're a champion, whether we are just the two of us or the millions of us or the billions of us. About over 2 billion people access Facebook, I think daily or every year. And so potentially you're looking at billions and millions of people watching this video. And if you're a billion of you, 10,000, 100 or just one watching this video, I'm so grateful. You're a champion. Come this far. If you haven't subscribed to this channel and share with family, and be proud of this channel because I'm proud of it. and we are doing the right thing. We are talking something really important, and we get a lot of feedback, positive feedback from nice people. This channel is far from perfect. My presentation is far from perfect. I'm aware of that, but the material is far from perfect. We are on the right track. We are doing the right thing. So let us go back to this material and look at the Kenya Student Union, Jehovah Witnesses, and all opposition parties were outlawed. Kenyatta ruled until his death on 22nd August 1978. African leaders and the leaders of dictatorships across the globe rule until they die in power. In Uganda, we have a man, President Museveni, who has ruled for over 30 years, going to 40 years. If we are lucky, if we are unlucky, he's going to die in power. Either way, we teach the likes of Museveni, the likes of the late Kenyatta, rest in peace, to respect people, to educate people. If you're a leader, you are actually an educator. Your role is to educate nations out of. If you are the president of any country, your number one priority is to teach the value of humanity. If you're in England, if you are in America, if you are, when I say England, I mean United Kingdom, you are in the Western world, you're in the East, with whatever continent you are, whatever globe you live, the globe is known as the Earth, which is our world. Your number one priority, especially if you're a leader, to educate the nation about the value of humanity. First, and then teach them about how to create wealth, including technology, engineering, knowledge, going to school, all these things. And if you are running capitalism, as we all do, make sure you look after the public sector, because that is the way to get people out of poverty in the first instance. Before we even begin the long road to enlightenment. Enlightenment meaning learning the value of humanity. I've been saying this and I'm going to be saying it again and again. And thank you for watching this video this far. And if you come this far, you are even a better person than you realize. You are a champion and you are extraordinary, and you are a hope for humanity, because this video is a hope for humanity. We are doing very well, and we are going to really teach the world how to be peaceful, and we are going to bring changes. If you're only one of you, if you are only 1,000 of you, 10,000 of you, million of you, you are valued, you are special. We need one more person, to watch this video, so that we begin to the process of changing the world, the process of bringing peace. Because the cost of living crisis is an opportunity for us to bring peace into the world. And thank you so much for your participation. And we are going to look at a man called Moi. If you live in Kenya, leave me a comment. Leave a comment below, and let me know if you know Moi. Who was Moi? Moi was the president of Kenya. He succeeded Kenyatta. Kenyatta finished his in 1978, so Moi took over. So there's a man known as Daniel Arap Moi, Kenya's second president, and George W. Bush in 2001 were meeting with him. There is a photograph somewhere here. So let us look at the presidency of Daniel Arap Moi, and look at the man and his presidency from 1978. He entered into power in 1978. The Kenyan presidential election brought him into power at that time. And in 1988, Kenyan general election also occurred. And in 1992, the Kenyan general election also occurred. So these decades show the sitting in power of Daniel Arap Moi, who actually, after Kenyatta died, Daniel Arap Moi became president of Kenya. He retained the presidency, running unopposed in election held in 1979, 1983, snap elections included, and in 1988, all of which were held under the single party constitution When we talk of a single party, it means there is no plurality in the political segmentation of the country. In the segmenting of the political landscape in a country like Kenya, we had during Moi decade the one unitary, one single party system. That means dictatorship in the civil context, but in Africa, especially in Kenya, being an African continent, dictatorship is typically militarily integrated, but also there are actually the hybriding of the militarism and also the civilian dictatorial dispensation, such as occurred with this information, such as occurred in Kenya under Daniel Arap Moi. And so we look at the 1983 election, which were held a year early and were a direct result of a failed military coup on the 2nd of August 1982. So Kenya, for the record, was one of the African countries which didn't suffer a military coup, but there were attempts in 1982. A coup was masterminded by a low-ranking Air Force serviceman, Senior Private Ezekiah Ochuka, and was staged mainly by enlisted men of the Air Force. So he was quickly suppressed by forces commanded by Chief of General Staff Mohamed, a veteran Somali military official. So Somali, now Kenyan, being in the echelon of society within the military ranking, were actually in the body and form of Chief of General Staff Mohamed, a veteran Somali military officer, actually saved the beacon on Daniel Arap Moi's Kenya at that time, saving the country against a potential military takeover. So it included the General Service Unit, GSU. I think this is actually a secret service, a paramilitary wing of the police, as you would think, and later the regular police. And there were a coalition over the military security system, the infrastructure of Kenya, saving the day and preventing a country from falling into the hands of people who intending to take over power by military force. On the heels of the Garissa massacre of 1980, Kenyan troops committed the Wagala massacre in 1984 against thousands of civilians in Wajir County. This is characteristic of Africa. Dictatorship also, when militarism begin to reverberate across the country, like Kenya, but also reverberating across the continent of Africa. And these features are actually outside sentiment and all other considerations. This format of dictatorial rule under capitalism in Africa is very typically actually militaristic, and is contrasted and compared with the dictatorship which occur in Europe, in the West, which is more civil in terms of a civil dictatorship, in something called democracy, which actually doesn't represent freedom, and the capitalism evidenced by situations including the one we talk about of the cost of living crisis. Cost of living crisis is actually evidence of lack of failure of democratic freedoms, and a statement to say there is no freedom, no rest for the wicked. And in Africa, as well as across the globe, we need to revisit our cultural economy if there is any hope for real democracy to occur, to bring peace, joy, and happiness in this world. And I believe we can change. I believe this will be achieved if true humans pick up on the mantra of cultural economy and come forward to claim their thrones on the seat of power, to direct humanity in the right direction, bringing in valuing of humanity over and above everything else, and moderating capitalism to bring it into play as to contribute in the building the humanitarian sector, and thereby bringing peace, joy, and stability. Let's continue along the plane of Kenya. When the election was held in 1988, this saw the advent of the Mulongo queuing system, where voters were supposed to line up behind their favored candidate instead of casting a secret ballot. This was also a form of elected dictatorship, direct intimidation of voters, shame the devil kind of thing. When you stand behind something, the secret service will spy on you. It happened in Uganda also under the dictatorship of President Museveni, the same man now ruling the government, having ruled the government in Uganda for about 40 years, for about 30 years now, approaching 30 years. And there is now a rumor that he is intent in grooming his son to take over after him when he luckily or unluckily passes on due to old age, when he gracefully or disgracefully depart from this earth. And my message to Mr. Museveni is, before retiring, before dying in power or doing whatever he's going to do, as the president of Uganda, you have to stop and think about the culture of humanity, valuing humanity. Stop the violence. I say this intentionally, knowing that Mr. Museveni alone cannot solve this problem because it is global and it is masterminded by the big powers. Violence, political violence, savagery is in the world, beginning from the biggest to the smallest in the power infrastructure of the globe. And in that regard, we are in for a long ride. This message is out. And if you are there listening to this, join me, join us. Let us begin to be teachers of peace and advocates for peace, talking about the cultural economy and leading the way, teaching people, teaching the great and the small, the doctrine of the cultural economy, of culturalism, of valuing humanity over and above anything else as a priority. This is the key to peace. It must start now. With this video, we are on a journey. Thank you so much for watching this far. You are a champion, and share this with family and friends. Be an advocate for peace, and peace is our portion, and we will take it by force if necessary, because we are human. If you are an alien, thank you for visiting our planet. No thanks. You have to visit and stay here on our terms, because this is our world. We are here to stay. We're not going nowhere. Whether we are alive or dead, our spirit will also remain behind. Peace will prevail in the end. And with this video and other messengers, let us come together and teach the cultural economy, the valuing and respecting humanity, moderating capitalism, and seeking new pathways to bring in peace. We will achieve this now or in the future. And continue watching this video, continue advocating for this video. Speak to your friends, speak to your family about video. If they enjoy it, fine. If they don't enjoy it, if they don't enjoy watching it, fine. Nothing comes easy. I do this, and if there is an opportunity to present this topic and entertain you at the same time, I will do that. If you are not being entertained already, then you have to watch this video anyway. And if you are tired, go and eat breakfast, go and eat lunch, and come back and watch it, because it is so important for you. It's important for everybody, whether you like it or not. If you're sick, you take medicine. If you're hungry, you eat food. So this is like medicine, this is like food, this is like shelter, this is like healthcare. This is the same with education, going to work. You don't do these things because you want to do them, because you have to do them. This is the very important piece of information. Everybody should listen to it, whether you like it or not. And I'm so grateful for those who have been participating I'm going to be here. If you want to talk to me, leave a comment below and let us carry on with the conversation. And I'm so excited. And I'm about to finish this, but I have to finish the portion, the section I'm actually looking at here. And this was seen as the climax of a very undemocratic regime and led to widespread agitation for constitutional reform. Normally they run for the constitution, but you see, dictators don't keep laws, they don't keep constitution. It is something people try to do, and that is the right thing to do. But if you are an opposition who is human, dealing with a very inhumane dictator in power, try your best to talk to him or her that, you know, we are humans. Simple as that. Value humans' life. If you are a wizard, if you are a witch, murdering people, killing people, you think power is more important than human being, then get out of power. Get out of power. You see, speak the truth. Speak truth to power. Always. You see, these people are so wicked. They are just like wizards and witches. They don't listen to anyone, but we speak anyway. Sometimes if you're not careful, you get killed. But if you have a breathing space, speak. If you think you might be killed, keep quiet. Live to fight another day. Don't talk like a fool. Foolishness has no credit. Because if some insane dictator shoot you dead, what is your use? I don't do corpses. Even if you are working for peace, I want you to stay alive. I speak now because I know nobody is going to do anything to me. If I ever thought I was going to be killed, I was going to shut up and say nothing, because I have to live to fight another day. There is no spare part for a human life. So be wise. Even if you're telling the truth, if the truth is prevented, just pretend you know nothing. But now you have a breathing space, even to call for a constitutional reform. Speak the truth, say, you know, the problem of Kenya, the problem of Africa, the problem of the world is that we do no longer respect each other as people. We don't even trust each other because we are so stupid. We are so foolish because our culture has broken. Our sense of valuation is wrong, and we only think of money, we only think of wealth. Money and wealth is important, but obviously human life is more important than wealth. Which planet do you come from? Are you an alien? If you are an alien, then you are welcome onto the earth, but be quiet when humans are talking. If humans ask you to speak, speak. Because some individuals believe as if they behave on earth as if they are aliens looking like humans. Because how can you value anything else apart from human? And that's why there is the cost of living crisis. And that's why there is a lot of violence. And some of these people might not be humans. They might be aliens. If you are an alien, welcome on earth. If you are a witch, welcome, but be quiet. Because we humans are still speaking. This is our world. You see, you may think I'm going over the top. Maybe I am. But you see, we have suffered violence for so long. The level of violence, especially such a violence as features in the cost of living crisis. That's what I talk about, the cost of living crisis. People think, how can you talk about the same thing? Because I choose to do that and use the cost of living crisis to illustrate all the fundamental issues which are actually important, like the economy, like the system of the economy, capitalism, like the private sector, businesses, small, medium, and big businesses, like employment. These are very important factors. Employment is the primary source of income of a livelihood. If people were paid well as employees, there would be no cost of living. If people were actually out of poverty, because the public sector is working to provide education, free food and energy, free healthcare around the world, which is what needs to be done now in Africa and in the rest of the world, especially in the developed world and also in the developing world. the public sector to moderate capital. Capital is creating problems to the majority of the population, concentrating wealth in the hands of the few, taking this wealth away from the hands of the many, and threatening the life and the livelihood of the 95% of the population are going to go extinct. If you can't access food, if you can't access energy, healthcare, you cannot access education, housing, employment, you name them, things you need, you can't access, because capitalism is a wicked system conducted by wicked humans or aliens. Nobody knows who they are anymore. There are few, there are not many. And then there is a call to look at our culture, our broken culture, and learn civility, to be civil, to be human again, prioritizing, following humanity. And this is what I'm going to be talking about. This is what I have been talking about. This is not going to stop. If you're watching this video now, talk to me, leave a comment below. If you don't, then carry on watching this video. Whether you're watching it or not, share with family and friends, and tell them there is a message everybody should know, because it is extremely important. And this man behind the camera is going to carry on talking about this thing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this far. You are a great champion, and I am going to speak to you sooner or later. Meeting you at the next video. Thank you. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Share with family and friends. Leave a comment below. Click the notification bell. Click like, and do all the right things in this video, and do all the right thing outside this video. Begin the process of changing the way you think about humanity, and value humanity more than anything else. If you're rich, if you're poor, do not value your poverty more than yourself. Do not value your riches more than yourself. That is wrong. The right thing to do is to value yourself first, and then value your poverty if you want to value poverty, and value your riches as you should. Because I like wealth, everybody does. Wealth is a good thing, but it's not better than the human life. And this is why there is problem. And that's why there is death. That's why there is violence. That's why there is capitalism operating like a monster, creating the cost of living as a crisis, as a sign. And that's why I'm talking about it. And it is a sign of things, rotten and dirty and ugly things happening in the capital. Let us clean it up. We deserve a clean world by revisiting our cultural roots, valuing humanity more than anything else. And then we will begin to rebuild our world and bring peace and live happily ever after. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you. Bye-bye.